You ever wonder why a week has 7 days? Well, Bar Louie does, and we're here to make all 7 days epic. Take Tuesdays. We think it's a great night for a burger. Give the fiver the respect it deserves when you trade it in for any of our signature burgers. This isn't some withered up bun with a slice of beef inside like everyone else has. It's any of the awesome, fully loaded burgers on our menu every Tuesday night. Granted, it's not something for nothing, but it's pretty freaking close. Bar Louie, your week just got way better.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hey, you are now tuned in to 110 Sports Talk. I go by the name Lynn Knack. Hey,
it's the best.
1 and 2 the competition, no competition. You don't believe it, turn us up. Sit back and listen. We bringing you the stats, all the breaking news and facts. Want the latest on the biggest trade war, this is where it's at. We don't talk it, boy, we live it. Got that all around coverage. From track and field, you name a field, we got it all covered. No diss to Derrick Rose, but we don't talk that bull. Just wait till he get healthy, better watch out for them bulls. Slide over the hockey, shout out to them Kings. Salute to LeBron James, y'all both got y'all rings. Looking for the real, you tune into the best. The sportologist and Mr. CJ Sports is up next.
I want to welcome everybody to the 110 Nation Sports Show. I am your host, Mr. CJ Sports. You can follow me at CJ Sports 1. You can follow the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. Glad to be here on this Monday night. I think I have Patrick Taylor joining me today. I'm not 100% sure. I tried to contact him earlier today. So hopefully we get a pleasant surprise with him coming on the show and joining us. Normally he joins us on Monday night, so I'm not frantically waiting, but would like to talk some NFL. There you go. Yes, sir. He's going to be joining us at 10 o'clock, so good to go. Great weekend, NASCAR-wise. Unfortunately for myself, fortunately for myself, I did have, I was approved to do the media at the Charlotte Motor Speedway for the Saturday night Bank of America 500, the only night race in the chase. Unfortunately for me, North Carolina did nothing but rain. So rented the car for 2 days and had a shortened schedule for Saturday, so I could be out there for the Bank of America 500, and unfortunately that did not happen. And instead I paid $150 for 2 days for a rental car to sit outside my work, and I had to work from 5 a.m. till 8 p.m. Sunday to make up those hours. And didn't even get to watch the race live on TV at that. So kind of a crappy scenario that played out. So it was kind of unfortunate. I did drive the 2 hours up there in hopes that the race was going to be run, and sat there for about 3 hours before they called the race, and then got to make the 2 hour drive back. And needless to say, I only got like 3 hours sleep, so by the time I got off yesterday, I was miserably tired and wore out. But it is what it is, and here we are. I'm not gonna do too much complaining, because in the 3 years that I've had my press pass and have had the opportunity to do race coverage for NASCAR and 25 races, this is the first one that I have not been able to actually participate in due to rain. Every other race they've gotten in that night or that day. Normally, and there's only been one race that actually got postponed the next day, and that was the Coke 0400 last year when Eric Amarola won. And I wasn't down there doing media coverage. I was just down there with family. So that is what it is. I'm not going to complain. What else? What else do we have since our last show? We had another weekend of football. We're definitely going to talk about college football. Going to talk about the haters, as once again, with the Ohio State victory, keeps them undefeated, keeps them on top of the AP polls. It just blows my mind how much hate there is for the Ohio State Buckeyes. They've won like 18 straight games. They've not lost since like September 6th of last year. They won the first season of the playoff system. They beat Alabama. They beat Oregon. And here they are still undefeated this year. And they're not really as bad as people try to make them see, as they lead all offensive categories in the Big Ten. And before anybody says it, it's the Big Ten. Well, you got Michigan State in the top 5, and you got Michigan, who was starting to put a lot of fear and a lot of eyes in in college football, and have really come on strong. And for Ohio State still to be the number one team in the offensive wise in the Big Ten, that to me says a lot, obviously. So I don't know. It blows my mind how much hate is on Ohio State, knowing that they've held on to the number one spot for the longest, and yet the haters still got to continue to hate. I don't know what Ohio State necessarily has got to do to get rid of all the haters, because they've won over a year straight. They are undefeated. I mean, do they got to make their schedule even lighter? Do they got to play the Texases of the world and blow them out to make people happy? I mean, they're I'm not gonna say they got the hardest schedule, but I mean, come on, they are playing Big Ten teams, and I mean, that's the best conference to be in outside of running a close second would be SEC, but yet here we are with the same conversation this week, even with a 49-28 victory, whether or not Ohio State should be the best team. I mean, they beat Virginia Tech by 18 points. They beat Hawaii by 38 points. Yes, Northern Illinois' seven-point game wasn't the greatest, and they won by 26, and then they won by 7 points over a tough, undefeated Indiana team at the time, who now, and I'm not sure where they're sitting at this point. They might still have only one loss. I would have to look up the record, but I mean, what do people got to complain about? And they finished their schedule off against two teams that are highly ranked in Michigan State and Michigan. So I don't know. It's just funny every week. We had this conversation talking about TCU that jumped up all the way to second to jump 2 or 3 spots because they beat a Texas team the week before, which everybody was beating up on Texas. So except for Oklahoma. I don't know what happened this weekend, but Oklahoma found them a way to be victorious over the Texas Longhorns. Found a way to be victorious over the Oklahoma Sooners. I got a few Oklahoma friends I really wanted to poke at them today, but the last couple of days, but I've left them alone with that. Hate to rub it in too bad on them. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers and the San Diego Chargers playing right now. San Diego's up 7-0. I need about 49 points. Come on, we need a scoring fest in this game. As I've gone 10-2 with a Chargers win, I would go 11-2, and if I can get 49 points or higher, I win the football pool for this week. That would be awesome. I could really use winning the football pool this week. Now looking at it, maybe I wish I didn't put so many points on there, but I'm hoping that San Diego and the San Diego and the Steelers will be able to put out points. Antonio Gates back for Phillip Rivers and the San Diego Chargers. I'm hoping that will be a helping factor as we're still in the first quarter. Like I said, 7-0, and incomplete pass, and there's going to be 4th down, and the San Diego Chargers are going to punt the ball. Also on this weekend, some interesting games. I ain't seen anyone in a few days, so I don't know. Washington victorious over USC. We'll talk about the coach getting fired there. It seems that he's got a drinking problem and been short of practicing games on the tipsy side. So no longer got a head coach as went with the interim head coach. Pat Hayden is the new head coach for the USC Trojans. Iowa slipped past Illinois this weekend, 29-20. Baylor beat up on Kansas, which obviously that helped them get the number 2 spot, which beating up on a nobody doesn't really help solidify, in my opinion, moving up in the rank. Yes, you shouldn't lose a spot if you beat up on a nobody, but I don't think you necessarily should move up. If you're beat up on somebody, especially if the team's above you, do not lose. But we'll talk about that as well. Mississippi all over New Mexico, 52-3. Texas Longhorns, like I said, they beat number 10th ranked Oklahoma. They were 1-4 going into that game. Now sitting 2-4. I wonder how Oklahoma is really feeling after losing to the Texas Longhorns. Everybody has had their ways with the Texas Longhorns this year. Toledo, 24th ranked Toledo over Kent State, 38-7. Michigan blanks Northwestern, a tough Northwestern team. Not only lose to Michigan, not only do they lose to 18th ranked Michigan, but they lose 38-0. Obviously, that's going to hurt Northwestern in a big way, and it's also going to help Michigan in the polls in a big way as well. Notre Dame victorious over Navy, 41-24. Tennessee has found their winning ways again, and they found that after them going unranked, they find it against Georgia as they are victorious over 19th ranked Georgia, 38-31. I tell you what, Georgia all of a sudden can't find their winning ways. They lose to Alabama, and all of a sudden now they start losing some more and more games. South Carolina loses to LSU 43-24. Oklahoma State over West Virginia in overtime 33-26. Alabama slides past Arkansas 27-14. Boise State over unranked Colorado State 41-10. Florida over Missouri 21-3. Trying to pull this down to see if it went down too far. There we go. TCU, Kansas State. TCU victorious 52-45. See, a lot of people sit there, and we don't hear a lot of conversations about TCU, but they're allowing their opponents to score 45 points and only winning by a touchdown here and a touchdown there against non-ranked teams as well. But yet the main focus is on this Ohio State team, which blows my mind that there's such a focus on what Ohio State is and isn't doing, even though they're still undefeated, and even though they're pretty much doing what the rest of the teams up in the top 5 are doing anyway. Michigan State over the Rutgers 31-24 with a tight victory for themselves as well, as they try to hold on to their 4th ranking spot. Florida State slides past Miami 29-24. Utah over the 23rd ranked California 30-24. And those were the big games this weekend. New polls are out. We're going to talk about them as we've seen some teams go up north and we've seen some teams go down south. Update on the game, Pittsburgh taking the ball right back to San Diego and some flags down. Ohio State keeps their number 1 spots, of course, and of course that just provides all the haters out there. 6-0 for the season, and Baylor moves up. Let's see, I'm not understanding this. TCU, Utah, Clemson, all these teams victorious, and yet Baylor gets the jump because they played a weak opponent and was able to score 66 points. The whole playoff system, the whole college system doesn't make sense to nobody. TCU drops to 3, Utah number 4. See, and what don't make sense is Michigan State victorious again this weekend and yet lose some more ranking. And what blew my mind is Northwestern was unbeaten, ranked number 13. Michigan beats them, and yet they only move up to 12th. I don't understand it. Why is Texas A&M getting a vote? Because I'm seeing that for the first time. How are you getting a vote for number 1, Texas A&M? You ain't done nothing. But Clemson number 5, LSU number 6, Michigan State. I tell you what, it was a good thing that LSU it was able to do. One, they played. They learned to play South Carolina's fight song to help raise money. Also, the NCAA has granted Fournette, and I apologize if I pronounced that wrong, but Fournette's a running back. There's a right to auction off his jersey to help raise money for South Carolina as well, which is really cool. Leonard Fournette. And when I say that LSU is ranked where I say that they're ranked, I really mean that Fournette is ranked where they're ranked at. As if it was not for him, and pretty much that is the entire team, they obviously will not be ranked at the 6th spot. So when I say LSU ranks number 6, I actually mean Fournette's ranked number 6. Michigan State 7, Florida ranked 8, Texas A&M 9, Alabama slides up to 10, Florida State 11, and Michigan. It's hard to believe they started off the season, and the only talks was Jim Harbaugh. Start off the season, go 0-1, didn't really expect anything in the first season. Now all of a sudden they are ranked 12th, and a lot of teams have taken notice, a lot of coaches have taken notice, and there's a lot of scare on where this Michigan team is going to end up at when the season's done and over with. So definitely keep an eye on that as well. Mississippi 13th, Notre Dame 14th, Stanford 15th, Oklahoma State 16th, Iowa 17th. UCLA 18th, Oklahoma. That's all you fell. 18th. Fall to 18th. You lost to an unranked Texas team, and you only moved down like 6. How does Northwestern lose to a ranked team and get a lower ranking than Oklahoma that lost to a 1-4 Texas team? That is beyond me. Also, what's beyond me, how the hell is Duke even in the top 25? What does Duke accomplish other than losing? That's wow. You beat Tulane, you beat NC Central, or whoop-de-doo, you scored 9-7 against Boston College, and your only claim to fame so far this season is your win against Georgia Tech, which was highly overrated. And you lost to Northwestern, and yet the poll system feels that they need to be in the top 25. Yeah, I don't quite see that. I'm not quite feeling it. Not at all. But anyway, a lot of college football. I'll tell you what, it's the time of the year. It's great. What do we got going on this week? And then we're going to talk about the USC coach. I tell you what, that's all a big mess over there. Thursday night, we got 2 ranked teams. We're blessed this week. We got UCLA, 18th ranked UCLA going against 15th ranked Stanford. Friday night, got 2 games. We got 21st ranked Boise State going against Utah State, and we got 24th ranked. Actually, the top 25 schedule anyway. 24th ranked Houston going against unranked Tulane. And then on Saturday, we got Louisville going to 11th ranked Florida State. We got 17th ranked Iowa going against 20th ranked Northwestern. Eastern Michigan traveling to 22nd ranked. There you go, 22th. What is wrong with me? 22nd ranked Toledo. West Virginia traveling to 2nd ranked Baylor. 13th ranked Mississippi going to Memphis. 19th ranked Oklahoma going to Kansas State. 7th ranked Michigan State against 12th ranked Michigan. There ain't no other games circled on your calendar. This better be the game to to have circled to make sure you watch. 10th-ranked Alabama going against 9th-ranked Texas A&M. Boston traveling to 5th-ranked Clemson. 3rd-ranked TCU against Iowa State. Florida, 8th-ranked Florida traveling to 6th-ranked LSU. USC is traveling to 14th-ranked Notre Dame. And are we on another 4th down scenario? This is not what I need, as San Diego is about to punt the ball again. I need some points on the board. Penn State traveling to number 1 Ohio State, to Arizona State going against number 4th-ranked Utah. Like I said, a lot of great games. Obviously, the Ohio State-Penn State game will be on my bucket list of games to watch this weekend, as we'll see if Ohio State can keep off another Big Ten competitor. That'll be your not late game, but Saturday night game, 8 o'clock, obviously primetime ABC. But a lot of great games I like. I like the LSU-Florida game. That ought to be interesting, 6 versus 8. Can Clemson keep their winning ways? And they're playing Boston College. They should be. But Iowa, 17th ranked, 20th ranked Northwestern, obviously is going to make for a good game. Obviously, the Michigan State-Michigan game, obviously really good game, and that could determine a lot of things, just like Alabama, Texas A&M. Alabama obviously can't afford another loss, and going to Texas A&M, that could be the nail in the coffin for another year of Alabama not winning a national title. So, like I said, there's a lot of good games going on this weekend. Looking forward to it. Speaking of we got some guests coming this week as well. Definitely excited about what we're going to have on the show this week, and looking forward to that. We got Patrick Taylor joining us at 10 o'clock to talk NFL. Looking forward to talking to that. We also got. Why does it always jump up there? We got Eric Saunders joining us Tuesday night, and we got Mason Mitchell making a return to the show Wednesday night at 9:30. And don't forget, tomorrow night we also got Patrick Taylor joins at 10 o'clock, and we got Izzo, as I know that he is one happy guy. As a matter of fact, I need to check my FanDuel. I had him help me kind of tweak my roster a little bit to maybe move a piece or two around, so I need to check to see how that was going. Got to talk to him earlier, so looking forward to having him on the show tomorrow and see how happy he still is that we got a NHL season, and so looking forward to that. God, I can't wait until 10 o'clock. I should most definitely have is there no games tonight? It's tomorrow. Oh, I thought that was for tonight. Oh, is there no NHL games? Did I miss? What did I do? I got my roster ready for tomorrow. Thought that was for tonight's roster that I was filling out. Whoopsie. Tells you how much I was paying attention. Anyway, we got a great guest on this week, so looking forward to that. Don't forget, Thursday nights, we got Racing with Big Sweat. He has got a full show planned. I think 3 interviews, 1 call-in. We got Chris Yellowflag Caution joining us as well. I'm looking forward to that as well. And I sent out a tweet today. Hopefully, we're going to hopefully we got one of the up-and-coming NASCAR stars joining us. So looking forward to that, and hopefully we get a good response from that as well. Like I said, USC Fighters coach Sarkisian. Steve Sarkisian is out. USC announced Monday that it has fired Coach Steve Sarkisian 1 day after he was placed on leave of absence. After careful consideration of what is in the best interest of the university and our student athletes, I have made the decision to terminate Steve Sarkisian effective immediately, Athletic Director Pat Hayden said on said in a statement Monday, I want to thank Clay Helton for stepping up into the interim head coach role, and I want to add how proud I am of our coaching staff and players and the way they are responding to the difficult situation. Through all of this, we remain concerned for Steve and hope that this will give him an opportunity to focus on personal well-being. Shortly after Sarkisian failed to show up on Sunday's practice, reports began to surface that he showed up to a special teams meeting intoxicated and ultimately left the building. Hayden met the media briefly Sunday and said he called Sarkisian and he wasn't well. It was very clear to me that he is not healthy, Hayden said on Sunday. Going through a divorce and having a lot of personal stuff going on in his life. Unfortunately, it looks like he has turned to alcohol and pain medications from the reports that we are getting here at the 110 Nation. And unfortunately for him, that, it was something that he could not fix or, not fix or get enough help in time that ultimately it cost him his job. And, it's being from a person that has lost his job outside of circumstances. I feel him, but I didn't have control of my circumstances when I was let go, and I just couldn't imagine. Drugs and alcohol are a very powerful thing. We've here at the 110 have had to deal with personnel with addictions, and it's never a pretty sight, and fortunately for them, we were able to, help them and, solve that problem. And not everybody is that lucky. And unfortunately, some people have to hit rock bottom. Some people do not have that support system. Some people do not have that significant other that is there. And, obviously with him going through the divorce and everything else, he did not obviously have the support system that he needed. And, we all hope that he, is able to beat this and is able to get himself back on his feet and, hopefully land another coaching job somewhere in NCAA or somewhere. But most and foremost, we all hope that he is able to at least beat this problem and beat this addiction. I've seen a lot of people personally, it ruined their life. I had an employee that worked for me at a job a few jobs back ago that his life was dictated around pills. And you could tell on what days he took pills and on what days he did not take pills. It's unfortunate. And, I feel, we feel bad. But, at the same time, what really can you do? And so, like I said, I've had opportunities to do different things, and as just like almost every person out there, I've done my experimenting with different things, but I would never do anything that I could get addicted to, and that scared me, especially growing up in a family that all the males are alcoholics. On my father's side of the totem pole here, or the GNA pool, I guess. My father, my oldest brother, and my younger brother on my father's side. And I have two younger brothers on my mom's side, and one of them has his addiction problems, and unfortunately it is on hardcore drugs. I have one brother that used to go to Ohio State, general manager at Bob Evans in Columbus, right there by Ohio State, that fortunately, he has never had those issues and has never been addicted to anything. And I applaud him for that, being, one of now five brothers that, I only have one brother that has not had an addiction problem. So, alcohol always, and I'm saying this as I've had some Bacardi 151 tonight, but you can ask Shorty, I don't do a lot of drinking. Yeah, this Bacardi of 151 has probably been in the freezer for at least 2 months, and she might correct me because I know she's listened to the show. It might even be longer than that. I'm not sure. It's not something that I do all the time. Yeah, I'll drink my Red Apple here and there. As a matter of fact, I think since we've been back from Gatlinburg, which is over a week ago at this point, I don't think I've touched anything outside of finishing off this bottle of Bacardi, and that's just because training starts tomorrow, and I just wanted to go ahead and get it out of the refrigerator or freezer, and I just wanted to have a couple of drinks. But yeah, that's always something. Alcohol, it's just so easy because it's so accessible anywhere you go. It's so easy to have an alcohol problem. And, you know, like I said, unfortunately for him, he didn't have the support system that a lot of people need. And, like I said, growing up in a household that is full of alcoholics or in a family full of alcoholics, I know how easy it is. You couldn't imagine growing up seeing the beer cans everywhere. And, there was part of my life that every other weekend when I went to my father's, we spent it hanging out at the local bar, a local hole-in-the-wall bar. And he would have us there until 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning at a very, I'm going to say very young age. We was probably 12, 14 years old, somewhere in that ballpark figure. But, it is family-friendly as the atmosphere was. I mean, there was a few fights, but nothing serious. It was just a hole-in-the-wall bar with a bunch of locals. It's, no place for kids to grow up in. And, I spent my fair share of nights hanging out there and being in there because, I grew up in an alcoholic family. And, that is what it is. And fortunately for myself, since I got to experience that firsthand, it's one thing that I strive and make sure that I don't become part of and don't want anything to do with. And, some people find it as a reason to have an excuse. Well, my father was an alcoholic, that's why I'm an alcoholic, or all the guys in my family are alcoholics, so that's why I'm an alcoholic. I look at it as I see what it does to everybody else's life, and I've seen 2 out of 3 of them have their marriages ruined, and I'm not going to blame on alcohol, but you could do your math on that, and alcohol leads to many different things and poor decisions, and I don't know. It is what it is. But see, under new head coach, we'll see how that plays out and how that fares out for the Trojans. Said you never want to see someone lose a job, especially due to making bad decisions, and so we're going to hope that hope he gets back on his feet, and we'll see how that plays out for the USC Trojans. If you're not checked out our website, go to www.the110nation.com. Also, check out our blog site, www.the110nationsports.com, for all the latest that we got going on in both those places. We got some baseball games going on tonight. St. Louis is up on or actually losing the Chicago Cubs at this point. Top of the ninth, I'm sorry. Chicago's up 8-4. St. Louis is trying to pull this one out. Mets over the Dodgers right now in the top of the third, 4-3. Kansas City was victorious over Houston, 9-6 earlier, and Texas was victorious over Toronto. Toronto was victorious over Texas, 8-4 earlier tonight as well. That's why, there was some NHL games tonight. That's why I don't know why the Fantasy League didn't have me participating tonight. What did I miss? And he just stumbled in the end zone. 7-3 is the score in the Monday Night Football game. San Diego's still up. Philadelphia and Florida are in the third for the NHL. Flyers are up 1-0. We got one game still played, Vancouver and Anaheim. And then earlier tonight, Tampa Bay was victorious over Boston 6-3. Winnipeg lost to the Islanders 4-2. And Buffalo over drew a blank. Buffalo victorious over Columbus 4-2. Good God, my Blue Jackets are 0-3 to start off the season. That's not what was supposed to happen, people. And Izzo had me all hyped up thinking that the Columbus Blue Jackets were going to be about it this year, and it's not looking that way. Kind of upset about this. So tell you what, it's great to have some preseason NBA going underway too. Glad to see the guys are back on the hardwood. Glad to see them back on the hardwood. It's good to see some NBA action finally. I saw this Thursday, so we didn't get to talk about this. What is going on? That is like the most horrible attempt to get away from a sack. What was Phillip Rivers doing? That was just downright horrible. We got people filing a lawsuit against FanDuel and DraftKings. I'll talk about it a little bit because I talked about me having a lineup for the NHL game tomorrow night instead of tonight. So I will talk a little bit about this. I find it interesting that there's a lawsuit, and they're filing a lawsuit basically because they're butthurt because they've lost some money. Now, their reason is because FanDuel employees are allowed to play on DraftKings, and DraftKings employees are allowed to play on FanDuel. And where the issue is lying for these people that are upset is the fact that they know, based off their company's numbers, what players are not being used as much. And ultimately, you're trying to build the best roster within your salary cap, but trying to grab players that maybe are not necessarily being used a lot. So you have a unique but very effective roster to beat other people. I mean, if everybody has the same roster and there's 70% using this person and 50% using this person, then it splits the pot, and you're going to either win less or you're not going to win at all because everybody, the unique ones that happen to pick the right players are going to outperform. And so you have these butthurt people, and this is what kills me about it, because some of these people talking about they lost $20,000 and lost this amount of money and this amount of money. I had this discussion with Shorty. I've been doing FanDuel for a little over a year at this point. And I would say, she said maybe a little bit more. But at worst case scenario, I think it's a little bit on the lower side of this number I'm about to say. She probably thinks it's a little bit on the higher side. We're not really sure because I don't do it a lot. But I would say in a little over a year, I've maybe deposited between $100 and $150 at most. And like I said, I think it's probably on the lower end of that. And so for those that are butthurt because you keep dropping hundreds and thousands of dollars, I don't have sympathy for you. I don't have sympathy for anybody that drops a lot of money on anything to do with the internet because you're not there. You have no idea who is in the same fantasy game that you are in. Or if there's real people, or if there's generated, you don't know. Just like anything else, you don't know. When you got to a point that you were losing money on a regular basis, you should have stopped. There's not some kind of commitment that you have to spend so much money per week to be part of FanDuel or per year or whatever. So when you start, hey, I'm losing. Here I got to reload. At some point, do you not have self-control? Do you not know how to? I mean, that's just like fat people. I mean, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. At some point, do you know how to put down a Twinkie? And I know I've put on quite a few pounds over the last year, and that's why training starts tomorrow. But I am nowhere near that I need to put down a Twinkie. Yes, I could probably slow down on the Twinkies if I ate Twinkies. I don't know. I never was really big on Twinkies growing up. Little Debbie's, and we just added Little Debbie's to our store, which is going to be the death of me, and that's going to be the hardest thing for me to get walk by is that Little Debbie section that you just put in my store right when you walk in the front door. But I have no sympathy. Because not only did you sit there and constantly reload your card or your account and spend that money, now you're going to point the fingers because that website was players have an unfair advantage and could use that advantage on the other website and vice versa. I would have sympathy. I would have all the sympathy in the world. Only if, and I still wouldn't have complete sympathy because at some point you should have just stopped spending all that money. But the only way I would have any kind of sympathy is if we find out that these professional sports, the head coaches, and all the players in this particular sport, whatever fantasy league you played in, were all in it as well. In other words, I have no sympathy because you can't dictate what these teams do on the field and what these players are doing on the field. So it doesn't matter to me, and this is why I'm going to say this in a minute. I'll tell you why I'm going to say this. But it does not matter to me if you have, quote-unquote, inside knowledge. I don't care if every employee over at FanDuel played over in DraftKings and they knew which players weren't commonly picked in their company and use that to their advantage, because they cannot dictate what those players do on the field. They cannot dictate how much time they're going to play. They can't dictate whether or not they got injury. I'm sure some of those people would have had Jamal Charles on their team possibly, and here we are, Jamal Charles getting a torn ACL injury and not going to be playing. They all finished the game yesterday. So I don't have sympathy because you cannot dictate what happens on the field. Yes, you might have an advantage because you know, but really how much of an advantage is that to know? Some of these people, this is what they do for a living. This is how they make their living. They can tell you how a certain quarterback performs against a certain team, a certain defense, certain weather conditions. What running back is effective against which defenses. What receiver lines up. Some of these people do all their research, can break down everything. This is how they make their living. They got to know. So should people that do talk shows, sports shows, NFL, should myself and Patrick Taylor, who works over at Limeboro, should we not be allowed to participate in FanDuel or DraftKings because part of our job and part of what we do is research sports, know what we're talking about? I mean, I'm 11-2 this week. Well, I'm going to be 11-2 after tonight once San Diego wins. I mean, I'm pretty knowledgeable in what I'm talking about. I'm going to be about almost 70% on the year of my win percentage. Should I be banned from FanDuel because I do my research, have a sports company, and talk sports all day long? Should Patrick Taylor not be allowed to because they have a site that talks about online betting and betting on games? There's always going to be someone that has a quote-unquote unfair advantage. But until the games, the teams, the players that dictate the games around fantasy sports, I don't really care. Knowing what information I know and what the lawsuit's about, I joined a fantasy league where I thought was tonight for tomorrow night for NHL. Like I said, I have self-control. I loaded the $25 in my account. I loaded that, and once again, Shorty might correct me if I was wrong, but I was selling this a month ago. I just now went under $20. Me playing the $2 game tonight took me down to $18.67. I have the self-control. I do not have to play this 24/7. I do not have to load up in a bunch of different leagues. Yes, every once in a while, if I feel that I have a roster that is dynamite, I used to. I don't know more. I used to join maybe 2 or 3 leagues, maybe spend $4 or $5 total for the night. I learned very well that my rosters are not as good as I think they are, or those so-called experts have better rosters. I know people win. As a matter of fact, I had a customer at my job talk to me last week or week before about it. Talking about thinking about doing it, this, that, and the other. And I told him, the pros and cons, even for a lawsuit. And I told him, don't get stupid with it. Don't get sucked into it. Don't spend a bunch of money, because some people, this is how they make their living. To us, it has to be more about having fun, participating in it. If you win, yes, it's a bonus. And I don't know, I've won $5, $10 here, $5, $10 there. I've won, I want to say in total, maybe $50 to $100 in total, maybe. So I've played a little bit more than, the $100, $150. And I think that's where the figures got mixed up. Is maybe, she saw a couple refills where I refilled $25, and I was talking about that, I played this and played that. It's probably because I, won a little bit here and there, and that's what kept me going along. I don't know. He came to me Sunday and informed me that his son won $2,000 recently. So I know people win. I know reading when the news broke about the lawsuit, people underneath it, why ain't nobody win, blah, 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 blah. The people that are in the commercial probably work for the other company and this, that, and the other. There's actually people that win. Yes, the people that work for FanDuel and playing DraftKings probably win more than regular people. Whatever, people win. And like I said, I don't hold it against them. If I work for it, or I work for them, I would have done it too. Now, supposedly they changed the policy and they're not allowed to participate in the other ones anymore. But like I said, how can you prove what people are doing at their own time? When I get off of my job does not know where I go and what I do. I could, go to the competitor or do what I wanted to do. So I don't know how they are going to control that. And I tell you what, if I worked for FanDuel and I knew that I had an advantage to win money, and all of a sudden the policy changed, unless they had a way to access my computer and watch my history and see what I did, I would continue to play. I wouldn't tell nobody. I sure in the hell wouldn't go on any commercial or anything. But I would continue making myself a nice living. I'm not going to lie. I expect some of those still participating to be from the other company. In other words, I participate in FanDuel, so I expect some of the people I'm competing against is going to be some DraftKings employees, regardless what the policy changed. I don't know. I understand that fantasy sports have come a long way from when I began in fantasy sports with a typewriter, whiteouts, and a copy machine. I understand that. But these people have gotten ridiculous with it, and I just find it amusing that you're going to be upset because you have no self-control, that you pissed away $20,000, and now you want to file a lawsuit because you feel some people have an unfair advantage. In every sport, there's going to be somebody that has an unfair advantage. There's people there that work for sports companies. There are people there that this is what they do for a living. There are some people that just have that knowledge that it is an unfair advantage versus other people. So that is what it is. I don't sympathize for it. I'll continue doing it. I don't care. It is what it is. Get over it, people. Yeah, we're going to halftime. Looks like it's going to be a 7-3 game. I don't know if San Diego is going to manage to get it into field goal range in time with about 12 seconds left on the clock. Reports coming in. South Carolina's Spurrier retiring. Looks like South Carolina's coach, Steve Spurrier, has retired. Not even retiring. South Carolina's head coach Steve Spurrier has retired, according to multiple reports. According to Gamecock Central, Spurrier informed his team and coaching staff of his decision after practice on Monday, while Football Scope is reporting that an interim head coach will be named at 8:30 on Tuesday morning. Thayer Evans on Sports Illustrated was the first to report the news. Spurrier, at 70 years old, was in his 11th season at South Carolina. He led the Gamecocks to an SEC East title in 2010 and 3 straight 11-win seasons, 2011 through 2013. But the team trudged to a 7-6 record in 2014 and just 2-4 this season with an 0-4 SEC record. Kind of unexpected, didn't our coaches just fall left and right this season. Didn't really expect him to retire, at least in the middle of the season. You would have thought he would at least finish out the season instead of putting the South Carolina Gamecocks in a situation like this where now they're going to run around and find a new head coach or interim coach to hold them over until they find a new head coach. And in a system and a team that is only 2-4 for the year, this is definitely only going to make things worse in the confusion, and I don't know. Just not a good time. 60-yard field goal attempt for the San Diego Chargers going into the half. And no good. He didn't even have the length, it don't look like. And it's funny how they look at each other, the rest, to try to it bounce in the end zone. How do you have to look at each other and determine if it's a good game or not? 2 seconds left on the clock. Obviously, Pittsburgh's going to run one play, but 10 points. I need 49 points, and there's 10 points in the half. I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to ask for a miracle in the second half of this game, as I need 49 points to win the football pool this week, and a San Diego Charger victory. One coach gets fired today. Another coach gets fired. Or one coach gets fired today. Another coach retires. I tell you what. Yeah, Hail Marys keep working. Oh, interception. Would have been nice to get a touchdown. Let there be 17 points on the board going to the half. Let San Diego come back. I don't know. Things that just don't make sense. 10 points in the half. That doesn't make sense. Both these teams normally are higher scoring teams. And, the last time I was sitting with the opportunity to win a football pool, I won plenty of football pools, but the one that was almost $700, which really aggravated me. Going into the Monday night game, it was probably about 3-4 years ago. Cincinnati was good that year. And I say that year, they've been good for the last few years up until the end of the season and playoffs. But going into that Monday night game, all I needed was a Cincinnati win, and I won it. Or even if the Steelers won, I just needed to be a low-scoring game. That's really all I needed. And Steelers have sucked that year up to that point. I don't remember what they did after that point, but they were sucking that season. So like I said, Cincinnati was a good team. And not only did the Steelers win, which, okay, fine, I can handle the Steelers win, but it was a blowout game. And then Cincinnati, at the end, started scoring garbage touchdowns. So it ended up being a high-scoring game, period. And I was like, are you serious? All I needed was a Cincinnati win. I was in the driver's seat. Not like tonight where, okay, if the San Diego wins, then it comes down to points. I got one other person that only had 2 losses. And at San Diego or at Pittsburgh win, I'm out of it because there's someone with 2 losses but has Steelers. So I was in the driver's seat. I was the only one with whatever losses I had. I was the only person with that. And even with a loss, then it come down to points. And Aaron, tonight, I now need a low-scoring game, or a high-scoring game, and two teams that traditionally put some points on the board. I mean, Philip Rivers and them like to put points on the board. Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger, well, Michael Vick led this right now. Like to put points on the board, and I am not getting any favors done to me with the 10 points at halftime. So, I don't wonder if somebody got lost while they were gone. We got Patrick Taylor. Wow, I cannot speak tonight. I don't know what's up with me. We got Patrick Taylor from Line Blowers joining us here at 10 o'clock. I'm looking forward to talking some NFL. Make sure you guys check us out on Facebook. You can check out my fan page, Mr. CJ Sports. You can check out the site and sports side of the House 110 Nation Sports, or the radio side and the guest side of the House 110 Nation Sports Radio. Also, do us a favor, and I know I said this before when doing the show on BTR Live, as we did Rubbin's Racing at 7 o'clock this afternoon, or this evening. We did that one live on Spreaker. Yes, if you missed it and you are a BTR listener, you can catch the replay at 11:30. It is scheduled to replay on BTR at 11:30 tonight, so make sure you guys check that out. But do us a favor. One of the things we got to accomplish here at the 110 Nation, in order to get the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network on iHeartRadio, which that is our goal as of late, since we've been on Spreaker. And for those that are catching the show later, you'll probably catch it on Spreaker. Once we get done, we will upload it, and you'll have it available on the Spreaker side as well. We try to make sure that all our shows are on all the platforms as possible. But for those that listen to the show or are fans of the show, do us a favor. If you got an account with Spreaker, in other words, you listen to the shows on Spreaker, follow us. One of the things we got to have accomplished to get on the iHeartRadio network, we got to have at least 100 followers on our Spreaker account. That helps us get to where we need to be. If you're not, if you don't have an account with them, log in and well, if you've not logged in, I say account, but all you gotta do is log in with Facebook, and then follow our show. It's not like they're trying to send you garbage. It's not like they're trying to sell you something. We need our followership to rise on the Spreaker so we can ultimately be a 24-hour, 24/7 network, first of all. But second of all, help put us on a higher platform. We got a lot of people that are working hard. Izzo, Miss Lee, Shorty, myself, even Patrick Taylor coming on. I mean, that just helps their cause over there at Line Blowers when he'll be heard on our network on a bigger stage. And so do us a favor and either log in, Spreaker.com, and follow the show, or open an account, but log in through your Facebook, set up, sign up, and then go follow us. And so we can hit our 100 followers. So that's one thing we can check off our list in order to be on the iHeartRadio network. It would be greatly appreciated. It would help us in several ways. It would help us build our brand. It would help us bring sponsors to our way so we can continue to expand and get, do more and more things. Everything was on a shoestring budget here. Ultimately, everything comes out of Miss Shorty's, I don't know why I was going to say Miss Shorty's, but Shorty and myself's pocket. And, so we're limited on what we can do. And if you help us get on the iHeartRadio network and we can open up to more sponsors and more ads, then that opens up to more things we can do, more things we can provide, more opportunities, more sponsoring ourselves, more, being even more involved with charities and foundations that either we currently are involved with or even more charities or foundations. So make sure you guys do us a favor and go over there and check that out. Also, make sure you guys check out Snafu Seasoning. You can check that out at snafuseasoning.com. They are the sponsor of the Thursday night show, Racing with Big Sweat. You can get their meat rub for either $6.99 or $7.99. I got Steve sending me a bottle of it, so looking forward to having a bottle of that. But make sure you check them out. They support the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network, more specifically the Racing with Big Sweat, with hopes that they will widen their sponsorship, but we got to continue doing our part. So make sure you guys check them out, buy you a bottle, and help the cause as they support the 110 Nation and do everything they can to help us get out there. There's a couple of other people out there I want to thank, and we will after we talk to Patrick Taylor. More tomorrow. I got to get their names. I know that there was we had a couple of guests on the Thursday show, and that Rays team has been thanking us and spreading the word on their Facebook page, and I want to make sure I thank them. I'll look that up later on. But I just got to make sure that I thank everybody that has helped make this all possible. And a special thanks to Patrick Taylor. I'm getting ready to plug him on the show. But he is not employed with us. He really does, and I'm not trying to say it's a negative way, but really does not have an invested interest in how things go here. He's got his own thing going on over Line Blowers and a great thing going over there. And like I said, it's not a negative thing. But I got to make sure I thank him because he does it. Because he does this out of the goodness of his heart, that he loves having the opportunity to talk sports and talk sports on the show. He joins us. He doesn't have to. There's no obligations. He's not getting anything out of it other than basically some publicity for the Line Blowers and what he has going on over there. So I want to make sure that I thank him a lot because he's a great tool for us. Gives me someone to talk NFL for an hour and a half a week with, and I get to have a great time with it. And like I said, he does have a kind of his heart and enjoys what he does, and he's not obligated to do it. He does it on his own. So I got to make sure that I thank him as well. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get him on the show. Patrick, how you doing tonight?
Good, man. Good, and I want to thank you for having me. As always, it gives me something to look forward to. Mondays are never exciting, but knowing I get to come on the show and talk football with you guys makes it definitely something to look forward to. So thank you, man.
No, thank you. It gives me something to look forward to. I get Mondays off. I have a long weekend, and I usually have Fridays off going into the weekend, and then weekends are my long shifts. So Monday gives me time to recuperate. So even though I'm off Monday and I should be looking forward to it, I kind of rest half of it away and sleep. And like this weekend was a long weekend, so I ended up catching a couple-hour nap this afternoon. Well, not a couple-hour, but a nice little nap this afternoon anyway, dozing in and off on the couch. So, it gives me an opportunity. Usually we don't have guests. You're usually my only guest on Monday night. So you coming on definitely gives me something to look forward to as well. So I'm glad to have you on. Before we jump into this, as always, I want you to have an opportunity to plug what you have going on, website, social media, and everything else for Line Blowers, and then we'll get this party started.
Yeah, lineblower.com. You can get your latest predictions for the week's games there, as well as daily fantasy lineups. Last couple blogs we've written had to do with the Heisman odds, NFC, AFC Super Bowl champion odds, things like that. So everything we talk about gets posted to the site, lineblower.com. Follow us on Twitter, line_blower, and then on Facebook at lineblower. So everything you talk here tonight will be on the site. Find a little more out there as well.
I got to look you up real quick. I think I missed the Facebook every time. Is that
yeah,
we were got it?
Yeah, it's relatively new. I probably started about a month after Twitter and the website went up, so it's relatively new. I think I only mentioned it a few times on the show. So yeah, Lineblower at Facebook. You can find us and like us there and stay connected that way as well.
I got my like on it, and I'll make sure that we spread that not only on my page, but my fan page and the radio fan page as well.
I appreciate
it. To answer your question, I just saw your email. No, I didn't get the topic. So I'm going to be shooting from the hip as we go through this. I'm going to let you guide tonight's show because you got a list of what you want to talk about. You have on the scheduled talk. So I'm going to let you take over.
Perfect. Alrighty. Well, this big week, this past week, first thing I had to talk about was the Dallas Cowboys and the New England Patriots got together, and it was quite the shutdown. New England dominated the Cowboys there in the second half. Brandon Weeden looked incapable of playing. So is it time for Castle to come in and take over for Weeden, or is Weeden, is he going to be the guy until Romo gets back? I think it's time to turn it over. Weeden had 6 3-and-outs in the first half. He attempted 38 passes for 188 yards. He's averaging just 4.3 yards an attempt. He really struggles and fails to recognize the defenses. When Romo was in there running the show, he was every play going down to 0 on the play clock, whereas Weeden snapping the ball with 5 or 6 seconds left. He's really not getting it. He's running a base offense, and it's apparent because he can't get the ball to anybody down the field. His one attempt was late in the third quarter after the game was already slipping away, and it was intercepted. So at this point, I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to have a bye week heading into next week, so it'll be the perfect time to transition away from Weeden, get Castle an extra week of practice, and have him ready to go against the Giants because heading into week 7 after the Cowboys have their bye in week 6, it's going to be crunch time where these games are really going to start stacking up and are going to need to be won for playoff hopes to really stay alive. But what do you think, man? What do you think about Castle and Weeden? I know you're a Browns fan at heart, so Weeden, what are your thoughts?
Weeden, I was really pulling for him in Dallas that he would be able to be productive for the Dallas Cowboys, especially since the Cowboys team was much better than the Browns team. And obviously, after seeing him play in Dallas, obviously it wasn't just the Browns, it was Weeden. And so the Dallas Cowboys got themselves, in my opinion, in a sticky situation, or I guess maybe sticky is not really a no-win situation. Because in my opinion, Matt Castle is not much better. Matt Castle shined when he played for the New England Patriots, but as you know, and everybody else that listens to this segment of the show, I think Bill Belichick's system is the ultimate system that you can replace parts in that offense or that defense, or you can have players play on both sides of the ball. We've seen that before, and the Patriots play successfully, win games, and players look good, regardless if they're good or not. Because once Matt Castle left the Patriots, and we were not really, I think he had one good season with the Kansas City Chiefs, and that was really it. So I don't think that the Dallas Cowboys, with their situation right now, is looking good no matter who's starting quarterback. With that being said, I think that, yes, obviously it's a time to at least give Matt Castle an opportunity. Obviously the Brandon Weeden situation and that, and in all fairness, though, I mean, you lost Dez Bryant at the same time, the week before. You really don't have, outside of Jason Witten, you really don't have a target that is shining or a target that's really worth talking about. Your run game, since you left DeMarco Murray, you're still trying to kind of find yourself in a run game, trying to figure out if you got one back that is good enough to carry all the loads or get all three of these running backs involved. So I think there's more problems than just the quarterback. It didn't look so bad for Tony Romo because it was a week after Dez Bryant, but I think he played the Philadelphia Eagles that week after, but I think there was honestly more problems, and I think it would have shown even with Tony Romo as quarterback. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done with that Dallas Cowboys team. I just think having Dez Bryant as a big target and having Witten out there, yes, it would have been a little bit easier for anybody back there as a quarterback. So I agree. I think this off week is a great time to see what Matt Castle has observed, what part of the playbook he has down, the play calling and everything else. And, I think it's a decision that needs to be made probably mid to later next week with the off week. But, we'll obviously keep an eye on that and see what they decide to do.
Right.
Greg Hardy got a lot of TV time, probably more TV time than anybody, even with them playing the Patriots. Jerry Jones coming to his defense didn't really feel bothered, but on the flip side, Terry Bradshaw was very critical of the things that Greg Hardy is even saying still at this point. My thing is you you're in the spotlight for putting your hands on a woman, I think at this point you just need to shut your mouth regardless what the topic is and kind of let everybody just get used to the fact that you're back to playing football and quit bringing more and more attention to yourself. I'm kind of more on the Terry Bradshaw side of the ball. I don't think that he should. I don't think he should be on the. There's certain things that I don't mind football players being in trouble with and still being on the field. Then there's certain things that I'm sorry, and I'm not going to be a popular group here with this one, but the whole, I'm sorry, Adrian Peterson, what he did to his child, I'm sorry, but I don't get past that. Me having a child of my own and raising 3 other children, I would never imagine beating any of them to the point that there's marks on them like that. And so I hold him to a certain standard as not only a parent but a professional, and then on top of that, a professional is getting paid millions of dollars a year to play a sport. I think that that's a privilege and an honor, and not everybody gets to do it. So when you do something like that, or Greg Harding with the domestic violence issue, I think those privileges and rights should be taken from them.
No, I agree with you. More than anything, regardless of the crime, I mean, putting your hands on anybody is not a good thing, let alone when you're 6'5" and 270 pounds with nothing but muscle. And that dude's obviously, I mean, he's an absolute beast on the football field. We read this morning that in between TV timeouts, and the teams are just kind of waiting for play to resume, he was just staring Tom Brady dead in the eyes, waiting for the game to resume. With that being said, I think the Cowboys should have done a better job having him prepped to handle those questions. I mean, you're coming off of 19. He hadn't played football in forever, and he had all the bad PR up and down, and what he did, obviously he deserves it. And he really probably shouldn't be on the football field, but I think Dallas as an organization really should have had a prep to just go out there and say the right thing, for God's sakes. I mean, you don't have to mention guns. You don't have to mention Tom Brady's wife. I mean, that really shouldn't be said to somebody that's his age, coming off of what he had done. I mean, for God's sake, show a little humility. You got your second chance. You should make the most of it, not open your mouth at first opportunity to kind of sling yourself back in the spotlight and give guys a chance to kind of reopen the bad air that you've already let go by. I mean, he's back on the field. That being said, too, he's a heck of a football player. I mean, he really changed the Cowboys' defense. It's just they couldn't move the ball offensively to really make it matter. I think they sacked Tom Brady 5 times in the first half there, and then second half they didn't get to him at all. And Brady's just so good at getting the ball out quick, and he has Edelman on the outside and Amendola and, of course, Gronkowski, who really was limited. I think he only had 4 catches for 60 yards, one of them being 33 yards. Dallas had their corner safety, Byron Jones, covering him pretty much man-to-man the whole game. So, plus for the Cowboys defense there, but they just got to figure out a way to score some points.
I mean, and just because the game's on and Michael Vick said to my face, I mean, even when he got his second chance, if I remember correctly, he did not do anything or say anything to draw any attention to him. He kind of just tried to fit in. He did his time. He did it, and he didn't even touch anybody. And, I don't even think he was even there when the whole dog thing went on. Yes, it was on his property. He knew about it. I don't know exactly what he knew and didn't know. And yes, he shouldn't have allowed it to happen. But even someone as simple as Michael Vick and understood, what he did. And, look, I just need to kind of put my tail between my legs and let everything just kind of get past itself, which is still in, they were protesting when he became a Steeler, and, people won't get past a lot of things. I just think it's funny that they're quick to accept Adrian Peterson back on the field after what he did, but we're years later protesting Michael Vick being on the field.
Yeah, I mean, Vick definitely handled it right. He slid, and took a job as a backup quarterback, waited for his time to get back into the spotlight, and kept his mouth shut. We should be talking about how well Greg Hardy played, but unfortunately we're talking about the comments he made before and after the game, and that's just nonsense on his part, and really nonsense on the upper management of the Cowboys to not have him trained and not have him coached to handle those questions. As big of a risk taker as Jerry Jones is, and he has a great setup in place. His former players, Nate Newton, guys who have been in trouble that come back and really counsel players. So it really surprised me for him to open his mouth. But Vick was a perfect example, as a society, we're quick to forgive people if they succeed. I mean, we really are. We if somebody succeeds and you start winning, it kind of cures all in a way. And that being right or that being wrong is a whole other story. But if the guy would just shut his mouth and let his play do the talking, I think people would really be able to, forgive and forget a little easier than him open his mouth right away and making comments that are really just inappropriate.
I'll tell you what, this game is not going how I want it to go. I'm 10-2 for this week. I had a good week, and San Diego wins and make me 11-2. But in order for me to win this football pool, I had to have 49 points. I had assuming two high-powered offenses. We're going to see some points tonight, and 10 points. And we're already 2 minutes into the third quarter. This is now, almost 5 minutes into the third quarter. It's not quite going how I wanted to go. But anyway, 7-3 is the score of the San Diego game for those that are listening in and they want to know the score. Which kind of
next on the list, Jamal Charles tore his ACL. He is out for the year. And really it raises questions. He's kind of at that threshold where he's had a lot of carries on him. He's getting to that older part of his career where he's already torn his ACL once in 2011 and really put his career on the cusp here. Charles is a dynamic runner and really is on a one-dimensional team with Alex Smith at quarterback. They've done things with Macklin to obviously make it less one-dimensional, but really Alex Smith is a game manager, so Jamal Charles not being in the lineup is going to be a big thing for them. They've got, they worked out Pierre Thomas, who played for the Saints. They worked out Ben Tate as well, so I'm guessing they'll bring a veteran in. But it'll be Kendrick West to replace him, second-year player from Abilene, Texas. We'll see what he's about. He came from a small school, but the Chiefs, they're going to be in trouble, and really they're going to have a decision to make on Charles as he enters kind of the twilight of his career, coming off a second knee injury. Chiefs are in trouble. I just think with the way they play offense, and unfortunately their defense hasn't been as strong as I thought it would be, they're going to have a big void to fill, and it'll be interesting to see what Charles does entering, free agency in 2 years, and with him having a big cap hit next year. I don't know. Charles is kind of going to be on the outskirts looking in, and the Chiefs right now really lost the biggest playmaker they have on their team in Jamal Charles.
How do you compensate for 30% of your offense? I saw the stats earlier, or heard the stats earlier. There's only one player, and I can't remember who the player was, that kind of just lost the person who it was. I just saw it too. But there's only one person that who was it?
I think it was DeMarco Murray last year as far as percent of touching.
No, there was somebody else. I forget who they said. There was somebody else. There's only one player that has more. What word am I looking for? Jamal Charles 30% of the offense of the Kansas City Chiefs, and there was one player that has got more than that. I can't think who it is off the top of my head right now. How do you replace somebody? And they also were talking about how Alex Smith isn't really the leader of this team. He kind of performs around and uses what Jamal Charles does to kind of dictate how he plays. It's ultimately Jamal Charles, then Alex Smith versus most teams. It's the quarterback and then everybody else. How's Kansas City going to overcome this?
I think they can do it. I mean, what they're going to have to do, they're still going to have to run the ball. So whether it's, West stepping up and being able to try to take some of that load himself, or splitting it with a veteran they bring in, whether it's Pierre Thomas or Ben Tate, we'll see. But I really think they're going to have to rely on Smith to use his arm to be more than a manager if they want to stay in the hunt. The Broncos have really carried away with the division. They're at 5-0. You have the Chiefs kind of looking in, the Raiders, the Chargers, those teams that are trying to find an identity. Well, the Chiefs have lost what their identity was up to this point, and even with Charles, they were struggling. So it's going to have to come down to Smith and really taking advantage of the short passing game and what Macklin can kind of do there in the intermediate routes. It'll be tough. Control the ball, play good defense, and hopefully the kid, West can maybe be a playmaker and maybe slide into a starting position for years to come for the Chiefs. So sometimes these injuries are devastating, but who knows? You can find a diamond in the rough, and I think that's what the Chiefs will hope they have in Shandarick West.
Tell you what, the Kansas City Chiefs, I was expecting a little bit more out of them this year already than what we've seen. So I'm definitely going to be interested to see how they finish this season out and if they're able to overcome not only, the loss of Jamal Charles, but dig themselves out of the hole that they are in the West.
Yeah, the injury bug, it's one of the hardest parts as a fan to deal with. I mean, the Cowboys are a perfect example of how you have such high hopes, and then your team is devastated by injuries, and now the Chiefs have to deal with it. The Broncos are going to be without DeMarcus Ware. Injuries are a part of this game, and really it's just the next man up, that mentality that one guy goes down, you have to be able to have guys on the depth chart that can step up and overtake that. Every team has to do it. Unfortunately, the Chiefs have their best player head to the shelf for the rest of the year and possibly never being a Chief again, which is probably hard for a lot of Chiefs fans as well because Charles has really carried them offensively for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
I was looking here. Next I was thinking we got the Ravens and the Browns, and I know you're a Browns fan, but wow, Josh McCown came out slinging, and what I really think is kind of a defining moment for the Browns who have just been mediocre for so long to go into Baltimore. And yeah, the Ravens are not what they have been in previous years, but for him to come out and set records and really silence all the talk on Johnny Football, I mean, McCown ended 36 for 51, 2 touchdowns, 457 yards. First quarterback in team history with 3 consecutive 300-yard games. He's thrown for almost 1,200 yards, also a team record in those 3 games. So with that being said, he's also the first player in NFL history with more than 450 yards passing, at least 2 touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, and no interceptions. So good old journeyman Josh McCown really put it to the Ravens, and I think it's a good sign for Cleveland that they're moving forward, trying to find an identity. But also, man, how bad are the Ravens on defense? I mean, to let the Browns come into their home turf and have McCown light them up for 450-plus yards and really let a win get away from them. What do you think about the Browns and the Ravens and how that all played out on Sunday?
I like how you build them up and then kind of tore them down. How bad are the Ravens? And that was going to kind of be my question. Should I get my hopes up that this Browns team has actually found something, or should I hold more on the weight that this Ravens defense has looked horrible? They only beat the Steelers because they missed 2 field goals and just really couldn't find, I don't know, I can't even explain why they lost or how they beat the Steelers other than those 2 field goals.
That was a fun game.
Yeah. But, yes, it's exciting to see Josh McCown actually play. I'm still not ready to chew my words on whether or not they made the right decision or not, as much as I am anti-Manziel. I just think that you're letting your future just sit there, and you drafted up to get him. Why not use him? Why keep holding on to some journeyman that is probably never going to lead you to the playoffs? It's time to work on the future. To me, that's just like the whole Peyton Manning thing. And as great as Peyton Manning was, the Broncos kind of turned in their future for the present. And at some point, you're going to have to move on. And the same thing with the Browns. And Browns' track history of having a new starting quarterback almost every single year kind of gets old and repetitive. So as much as I want to get my hopes up and want to be positive about it, at some point the switch had flipped and they started doing good. That game didn't start off that way. Cleveland was losing like 21-9 or 21. It was probably more than that, 21-3 or something. I don't remember what it was. So I remember having customers come in and talk about it, and I'm like, well, this is the Browns. I'm not expecting them to come back, and then, all of a sudden, next thing I know, it was 21-16 and 23-21, and they were going back and forth or whatever the score was. But, yeah, very impressive day. I was shocked to see him set so many different records. I was 457 yards. That's just a lot of yards, and I'm impressed with what he did, but I want to see it against a team that wasn't 1-4 going into the week. And let's see if Josh McCown can show up when they play an actual legitimate opponent. If he lights up 400 yards or even 300-plus yards against the Cincinnati Bengals, then yes, I would be a little bit more ecstatic about it. But it's hard to get excited about the Browns because you're waiting for the other shoe to fall. It happens every single year since the mid to late 80s when we stopped having all those good years. It was last year, the year before, it was the first time we were on top of the division and the first time we had a winning record week 6 or whatever, and then the next thing you know, we fall apart and we're in last place again. So it's just really hard to get your hopes up and get excited as a Browns fan because you expect everything to fall apart.
Yeah, I know the feeling of just being a fan and being hesitant. I mean, like I said before, I don't like to talk about me being a Cowboys fan, but I am, and it's over the years they find a way to break your heart in a different way every year. You get your hopes up, and then after a while, you're just jaded and waiting for that undying moment where
But the difference between you being a Cowboys fan and me being a Browns fan, I'm only getting my hopes up that we can finish 500. Not that I get my hopes up to get the playoffs. Not that I get my hopes to make it to the Super Bowl. At least those are the hopes you got. I'm just hoping for a 500 or better season.
And that's, I guess, the analogy to make. I last year, the Cowboys were supposed to be so bad, and they pulled that, out of nowhere. And then this year, I had hopes of Super Bowl, and now it looks like they're just going to be barely holding on if I'm lucky to make the playoffs. And I just said it right. You put it in perspective a little bit that you just want to have a winning record for once in a while. So I know what you mean. We're definitely a little on.
That's not even the same to me because that's not even the same to me because if it wasn't for injuries, you guys would still be doing good. That's not just because your team fell apart. I mean, yeah, maybe backup quarterback should have been a better thought out plan, but that's what were the odds of Dez Bryant and Tony Romo going down that early and right after each other? That's here and there. And yeah, I understand you guys had your hopes up to go to the Super Bowl, and as long as Matt Castle now at this point can just wait it out, at least go 500 while he's under the range. That 3-2 with the Giants. Everybody else is 2-3. It's not like it's unwinnable still at this point. And both of those players, Dez Bryant and Tony Romo, will be back. So. They just got about another month of waiting it out. So
hanging on, right? And Dez is still he has a chance to come back. Yeah, he has a chance to come back against the Giants here in Week 7. So we'll see. But touching on what you said about Peyton Manning, and then as far as when the future is kind of waiting behind the quarterback that you have wagered on now, a reporter asked Gary Kubiak just yesterday, has he considered moving on from Peyton Manning to turn into Brock Osweiler? Osweiler is the tall, lanky quarterback who they drafted in the second round a couple of years ago. Manning was 22 for 35, 266 yards and 2 picks, no touchdowns. He's really being carried by the defense, and it's possibly, he's having probably the second worst season he's had since his rookie year back in '98. Do you think the Broncos should take a second to look at it and really consider moving on from Manning? 5-0, or stick with Manning and roll with it that way?
I'm not going to be the most popular in this group as well. I would have never gave up on the Tim Tebow project. Not that I think Tim Tebow is the greatest quarterback, but at least you had something to build off. To me, once you committed to Peyton Manning, you gave up moving towards the future. You were cashing in all your chips on a quarterback that you was uncertain of injury. Now, obviously, that has not had anything to factor because it doesn't seem like he slowed down, especially the first couple of seasons back. But you went all in on a quarterback that is on the end of his career to win a Super Bowl. And yes, you made it to the Super Bowl, but you were unable to be successful, and you were actually horribly embarrassed in the Super Bowl by the Seattle Seahawks. As great as we've seen Peyton Manning be, even as a Denver Bronco, one, like I said, I'd have never gave up on the Tim Tebow project. I would at least work there, win with that, and see where that took you to. Because you took a team that was horrible with Kyle Orton, you turned it around, you went to the playoffs, you won a playoff game, even that worst-case scenario, even with Peyton Manning coming in, I would have kept Tim Tebow. Maybe Peyton Manning could have worked with them, and you still had your future sitting there waiting on you. And Tim Tebow would have said 2 words. Tim Tebow would have stood there with a smile. Tim Tebow would have done anything you said to go do for the opportunity to still be a part of the Denver Broncos. With that being said, yes, I do think it is time. I think it's past time. When you've had 2 games this season already that you did not have an offensive touchdown with the Baltimore Ravens, and I know Peyton Manning didn't have a touchdown this week as well. Obviously, it is time. I don't know if it's necessary because it's past his time or the offensive scheme they're just not clicking because Kubiak has one idea and Peyton Manning's used to playing another way. But obviously it is time. I would be surprised if there is Peyton Manning next year for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with you. I don't think they'll move on from him this year, but I'll be really surprised next year if he's in the Broncos system. And I think that was one thing when they brought Kubiak in as offensive coordinator. Kubiak typically likes to do a lot of play-action, rollout passing. Not that he wants a mobile quarterback, but he likes a quarterback that can move a little more than Peyton Manning. I mean, Manning's ancient and, coming off the neck surgeries, and, man, the ball coming out of his hand, it just does not look smooth. He's overthrowing guys. He's underthrowing guys. He's indecisive. Looks like he's lost a little confidence. So I think, yeah, you roll with him this year, but I really don't think he'll be back in Denver next year. And, pending injury, I think he'll still be the starter. But he's got a 5-0 team, a really good defense, and he's really turned into more of a game manager versus the old Peyton Manning that would, march the Colts down the field, and really even the Broncos down the field when he first got there. But definitely something not right with Manning. I just think the way the ball comes out of his hand, it looks so difficult for him to sit there and throw it. I mean, that interception that he hung up that Charles Woodson, who's actually him and Charles Woodson are the only two players left from that 98 draft class in the entire NFL. And Woodson went up and then picked that ball off like he was still playing at Michigan. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But, I think Peyton Manning really is in the twilight here as it goes down the stretch. And who knows after the season rolls on how long his body can withstand the force of defenses every week and the travel and just everything that goes with being an NFL quarterback. So Broncos risked everything they had to get Manning and buy now and buy those players on defense. So time's running out. Next thing I was going to move on to. Go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking of interceptions, Philip Rivers just threw a pick six. Steelers just went up. It looks like it's going to be 10-7, pending whether or not they go for 1 point or 2 point. Looks like about you took it back 70 yards, but it was going to probably be a 60-yard or 50-yard because they were at the 50-yard line when they snapped it. So I don't know what they consider that to be. But the Charles Woodson interception, I tell you what, for it just being an interception, and it wasn't like it dictated the game or anything, as Denver still won, they did make it such a big deal that it took Charles Woodson 18 years to finally pick off Peyton Manning.
Yeah, and that's pretty crazy to think, too, because, he was with the Raiders there. They played in the AFC quite a bit, I think, a handful of times to finally get him twice, too. But at 39, Woodson's leading the league in interceptions, which is pretty crazy. I've always respected him, thought he was a heck of a football player, and for him to be out there still gaming at 39 is pretty awesome.
I definitely agree. I had never understood why. Because didn't Woodson play for the Green Bay Packers? It's the same Woodson, right?
Yep, the same Woodson. He was drafted by the Raiders and left the Raiders to go to Green Bay, and then spent, I want to say, 5 seasons. I understood why Green Bay got rid of him. Yeah, and Green Bay is one of those teams that's really good at usually moving on from guys. I mean, the franchise, Brett Favre, they had to make a tough decision there, and nobody's really going to question that one with Aaron Rodgers taking over. But I think it's hard for management to recognize when a player's lost a step and move on in the salary cap era. Woodson definitely has some left in the tank, and I think he's a heck of a leader and really has helped Del Rio and Oakland there develop an identity on defense.
And obviously he ain't lost too many steps if he's leading the league in interceptions. So, I mean, obviously either he lost too many steps or he still knows the fundamental of how to play his position better than everybody else and is able to constantly be at the right place at the right time. Right.
And speaking of another older veteran player, Dwight Freeney signed a $870,000 deal with SAC incentives with the Cardinals. It's basically similar to the one that the Cardinals gave running back Chris Johnson there as the season started. Chris Johnson, like you said, I think you were big on Chris Johnson. Somebody pick him up. He's got almost 400 yards rushing. I think he's second in the league right now. So they brought in Freeney to work with James Betcher, who was a defensive coordinator there Freeney's last year in Indianapolis. So Freeney comes into Arizona where he'll be used as a nickel pass rush guy, just a situational pass rusher. But do you think he opens up anything for Arizona defensively? And, another veteran getting added to a team late. What do you think he does for the Cardinals?
I don't know how you can make this Arizona Cardinal defense any better than what it already is. I mean, to me, now you're just adding a little bit of depth and a little bit of veteran leadership, I guess. Outside of that loss, which I don't think it was necessarily all defense. I don't think the offense hardly put up any points in that Arizona loss. This Arizona Cardinal defense has been on point, and like I say, you kind of add veterancy there, and you kind of I don't know if you really improved your defense much because it is such an old player, and I know there's been a lot of wear and tear, but I know that this is just one more tool for this young defense to, be able to pick his brain and make themselves better. So
yeah, I mean, even just from a scheme way, schematically, when Freeney comes in on third down, they're definitely going to have to be aware of where he's at, just because he has such a unique skill set as far as coming off the edge. So I agree with you. I mean, I think he's definitely going to provide a little bit more to a defense that really doesn't need it anymore. I mean, it's really been dominating through this point in the league. But what about we talked last week about the Bengals and the Seahawks. It's a Seahawks defense that gave up a huge fourth-quarter lead to the one and only Andy Dalton. And really, if it wasn't for Megatron's fumble last week there, the Seahawks defense would have already blown 4 fourth-quarter leads this season. So what do you think? Seahawks defense, are they missing something, or is it really the Bengals are just that legitimate and that for real?
So far, it's hard to say that the Bengals aren't legitimate. If I heard a stat right, Andy Dalton's not even thrown an interception yet this season. The Bengals start off good every year. It's whether or not they can finish the season off and win a playoff game has been the question. I had the Cincinnati Bengals. The only two games I ever lost was the Chicago comeback against the Chiefs, and then to me it was a toss-up on who was worse, the Philadelphia Eagles or the New Orleans Saints. So 3 games going overtime, I ended up winning all those games, and I was on the edge of my seat with it. But Cincinnati has been legit all year. They are doing what they have to do, and they look good doing it. I like the fact that they were able to do what they did to that secondary when Richard Sherman decided to open his mouth about A.J. Green and the Cincinnati Bengals. As much as I am anti-Cincinnati everything, being a Cleveland fan, I was glad to see Cincinnati be able to do what they did to the Seattle Seahawks, and they put up a lot of points in a quick amount of time. They were down, by 17 points in the fourth, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah,
something to that ballpark figure?
Yep.
Yeah, so to see them pick that, and not only that, but also shut down the Seattle offense, because in order to make up that 17 points, it's easy to put points on the board, but if on defensively you're not shutting them down, then everybody's going to constantly scoring points. You're not going to close the gap. So not only offensively you got on par, but defensively you shut down that that offense that not everybody can do. So I think that this Bengals is legit, at least regular season wise. Let's see if we get down to week 15, 16, 17 in the playoffs. We'll see how legit they still are. But this Cincinnati Bengals team is starting to make me become more of a believer, and I think this might be the year they at least win one playoff game.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, it's a little too early to count the Bengals 100% in, just because they have the track record to go into the playoffs and lose right away. But really, I can't get over the fact that the Seattle defense gave up those 17 points, because even though offensively the Seahawks were missing Marshawn Lynch again, they had a great game from their running back, Rawls. He had 23 carries for almost 170 yards. So really didn't miss Lynch in that sense. But the head coach for the Atlanta Falcons right now, Dan Quinn, really I think the Seahawks miss. He's an emotional leader. He was their defensive coordinator last year and had been a part of the coaching staff there for the last 5 seasons. So I think Dan Quinn leaving Seattle has just kind of scrambled things. Getting Cam Chancellor back definitely helped, but, I mean, to give up 17 points, and yes, they're on the road, but Super Bowl contender doesn't do that. And to do it almost four times already this season, it's got to be, a little concerning for them.
Now, since you brought up you're a Dallas fan, and we skipped all over this, and I don't know if it's because you're a Dallas fan you didn't want to talk about this, but that New England touchdown where the running back just really made that defense look horrible in the missed tackling. What was your thoughts when you saw the replay of that?
Oh man, Dion Lewis, kid from Pittsburgh. He was running back at Pittsburgh after McCoy left, and I actually, when I was watching him in college, I thought he was going to be a better player than McCoy was at the next level, just because he had a lower center of gravity, but also had the moves like Shady had. It was a heck of a play. I think more of it, is attributed to the fact that the Cowboys' offense couldn't get off the field, and really the New England New England offensively just wore them down. But I mean, I think it's more, and maybe it's because I'm a Cowboys fan, but more attributed to the playmaking ability of Dion Lewis when Brady hit him in the open field. I mean, gosh, he made 4 guys miss, ducked under one, he made one fall down. I mean, it was a heck of a play. And then even Edelman dropped Morris Claiborne. I mean, he made him look silly coming off the break in a slant play that Claiborne just fell, right on his butt, and Edelman took it for about 40 yards down the field. So I think when you've been on the field so long and you're trying so hard to not break against Tom Brady and things like that, I think it's just exhausting, and it leads to your team falling over themselves and kind of looking silly at times. But it was just a tough game.
That leads me to a question, and this might end up being a stupid question, and there's probably a simple, logical answer that I'm not seeing. But when we talk about defenses being stuck on the field and it wearing down, now at the same token, you have the offense on the field as just as long, obviously, and you don't hardly ever rotate any offensive linemen. The only people that get rotated is your running back and your wide receiver. So your front line and your quarterback are on the field just as much as that defense, and a lot of your receivers and running backs are, but also the defense gets the substitute players as well. So why do we focus so much on the defensive side of it, knowing that the offense has got to be just as tired if they are on the field just as long?
Well, you have to think, and that's a good question. It's definitely not a dumb question. Offensively, the plays are drawn up, and as a defense, as a unit, you have to become reactionary. So plays drawn up offensively, the defense kind of has to react to what the offense is doing. Offensive linemen really don't move downfield. So, I mean, it's illegal for them to move downfield anyway. So you have your receivers, your quarterback, and your running backs. Running backs and receivers especially rotate out. If you watch closely, they'll bring receivers in and out, plays at a time. But defensive linemen still are chasing running backs down the field. The other thing, offensive linemen are bearing down on defensive linemen who are you exert probably 50, 60% more energy on defense just because it's reactionary and just because 11 man to the ball, especially Dallas, because Rod Marinelli coaches that in Dallas, every guy to the ball, So you'll see Greg Hardy making a play 15 yards down the field, whereas the center on that play moved 3 yards and didn't have to do much. So it's, with defense being reactionary based and all 11 guys having to go to the tackler, it's just you exert a lot more energy. And, yeah.
I was just sort of thinking about it the other day when I was listening. It was last night. I was just sitting there thinking to myself, okay, the offense is on the field just as much, so they got to be tired too. I mean, the offensive line is just as big, so it's not like there's a size difference or anything else. And I'm like, I understand that, there's a lot of energy and you don't know the play, so you got to use a little bit more energy because you're reacting to the play versus knowing what the play is. But I'm just sitting there thinking, these are grown men too, and they got to be just as tired, so you would think the blocking would be less effective and blah, 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 and so forth and so forth. So I just want to know your opinion, what makes that much of a difference, because I don't know, I would be just as worn out having to block a guy my size or bigger every single play as well.
Yeah, another thing, too, that people don't really realize, I mean, and everybody has their probably preference, but as a player, back in the day, I actually would prefer to be hit than actually have to put a hit on somebody. It takes a lot more, like, somebody gets crushed coming across the middle, wow, man, that must have hurt. But that defensive back feels it, too. That middle linebacker that really hits him, I mean, it's it takes a lot of force to hit somebody, let alone receive a hit. Different way, you think apples, it's the same comparison in playing football, but, the offensive linemen really don't move as much. The defensive linemen have to chase the ball down the field. Mix that in with, as a defense, you're reacting and really having to apply force the entire, course just to, withstand any sort of resistance to the offense. So mix that with the fact that it's the Patriots, and, man, Tom Brady doesn't get, he gets the ball out quicker than any other quarterback. I think in the Cowboys game, I think I read that 2.09 seconds was about how long he was holding on to the ball in the second half. I mean, 2 seconds and the ball's out of the dude's hand. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, I think second was Andy Dalton this year. I think they were talking about that was one of the things that's helped the Bengals is Andy Dalton's release is like second fastest in the league right now or whatever it is.
And quarterback's release time, I mean, that is something that is extremely hard to come. You can't really coach it. And I mean, kind of go back to the Tebow point you made. I think if he could continue to improve that release time, it's just the ball has to come out very quick because of the catch-up speed of the defensive backs and the way the offenses are ran, in this day in the NFL. If you get the ball out quick, there's a lot less chances you're going to make a mistake. Hold on to the ball out longer. Defenses read you, you give up a sack, pressure comes in your face, can affect the throw. So definitely getting the ball out quick is probably the most important thing for a quarterback, really.
Well, it's sad to say this, and I know this is not going to be a popular comment either, but I would feel more comfortable or more confident that the Cowboys could have made it a reasonable record until Tony Romo and Des Bryant got back if they would have picked up Tim Tebow versus Matt Castle. At least I know what Tim Tebow is capable of. Matt Castle, I'm still not certain because, like I said, outside of maybe one good season with Kansas City and being in the perfect system, the Bill Belichick system, I've not seen nothing out of Matt Castle. At least I know with Tim Tebow what we're going to get and what he is capable of doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just tough because Tebow doesn't fit very well in Garrett and the system in Dallas there, just because I think they would have to really, if they wanted to bring Tebow in, they would have to draw up a whole new offense in a way to fit his skill set. You look at the quarterbacks that they have, Romo, Whedon, Castle, they're all pocket passers with very limited mobility. Those guys aren't going to take the ball and run. But the thing about Tebow that Castle and Whedon, he's a winner. I mean, the Cowboys are 0-3 because, well, Brandon Whedon really didn't take chances to win the game. You could argue he's checking down a lot. Maybe it would have been nice to see a guy like Tebow who has that kind of killer instinct to push through and win the game, not just try to, not screw up.
I guess I'm going to tell with the Matt Castle thing until Romo comes back. Probably got time for one, maybe two more topics. You got anything else left on the list?
We go to round the night out. Be the last one. Arizona absolutely pounded Detroit on the road, 42-17. It led to Jim Caldwell going up to Matthew Stafford and letting him know if he threw another interception, he would not be going back in the game. Sure enough, Stafford tosses another pick. They bring Dan Orlovsky in, and Arizona continues to put a beat down on him. The question is, Stafford, the franchise quarterback, number one pick overall, making all that money, he leads the league in interceptions. Do you think that's just kind of a way to say wake up, or do you think they're really serious about moving on from Stafford?
I wish more teams would be like this. I think that you got too many quarterbacks out there because of the money and because of the way the quarterback position. And I understand that we don't even have 32 legitimate starting quarterbacks in the league. I'm sorry, but even Josh McCown of the Cleveland Browns is not a legitimate starting quarterback. That's just who the Browns got stuck with, and they're just trying to make the best of the situation. And there's no doubt in my mind that realistically they would love to have what 20-something other teams actually have. And there's a couple other teams we could go down the line that don't have legitimate quarterbacks. They're just stuck with the quarterbacks they have and are making the best of it. But I wish that you would have more coaches that would do that. That, look, if you ain't playing to the way we need you to play, we're going to bench you. I think that stand, and I think that the whole contract holdout look, you don't want to play. As a matter of fact, the whole contract holdout thing, I wish it would be an unwritten rule that, okay, if this guy holds out, okay, we're not going to pay him. But every other team, the other 31 teams, understands that this is why this is player's not playing on a team, and when his contract's up, nobody else signs him. Look, if you're going to do one of our other brothers, because it's a brotherhood with the owners, if you're going to do this, then nobody takes a chance on him, because if you can't honor your contract with one team, no other teams will take a chance with you. That's just how I feel about it. But I wish that they would make a stand, more teams and more coaches. Look, either you play to the performance, you play to your contract, or we're going to let you go and someone else can deal with it. We're going to pay somebody, give them money to play to the what we need them to play, versus us catering and paying you, continue paying us this amount of money, and you're not helping us. I mean, the Detroit's, 0-5 at this point, and I think I picked against them this week. I forget who they're playing, but I know I picked against them again this week. It might have been Minnesota. I can't remember. I'm trying to pull up the schedule real quick.
Yeah, I think they did Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm getting yeses from every which direction. So that's sad when I'm picking a Teddy Bridgewater-led Minnesota Viking team over Matthew Stafford and Calvin Johnson at this point. But I like the move. I hope it's a wake-up call for Matthew Stafford. I just hope it ain't this week, because I need Minnesota to win. But they've already killed the whole quarterback controversy conversation. First thing out of his mouth is, before this even gets started, he is our starting. This is like a starting pitcher. They have a bad day. The pitcher gets relieved, but he's back in the rotation the next time. Same thing with Matthew Stafford. So I like the move. I think more teams need to do that, wake up their quarterbacks. I think the 49ers, I think you're way behind the ball yes, Kaepernick had a better game against the Giants, but I think that there's teams out there that should have already made this call, and should have looked at other options. And there's a couple starting quarterbacks I think they should have lost their job permanently. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's refreshing to know that there's some accountability for those superstar quarterbacks. I mean,
yes.
It also makes me wonder if there's more going on behind the scenes there. Is Stafford really not engaged in meetings? Is he separating himself from the team? Is he not putting in the work he should? Because the guy's got a cannon. I mean, he has one of the strongest arms I've ever seen, and that's why he was drafted number one. But is something missing there? Is he slid from last year to this year, lost focus? I think Caldwell was trying to make a point and say, hey, you're a part of this team too, and yes, you can lose your job regardless of where you're drafted or regardless of how much money you make. So, perfect point is Kaepernick in San Francisco. I think he should have probably been called out on a few of his throws, earlier last week, and probably brought in Gabbert. So, refreshing to know that there are coaches that really demand performance regardless of contract, and to know that there is some accountability for those guys. And I think it's a good example to the youth that watch the game of football that know you are not bigger than the team. You are, a part of this team. So it was nice to see in a way, and we'll see if that'll light a fire under the Lions, because right now they're the only, winless team in the NFL, and with the team that made the playoffs last year. So we'll see what happens.
And I'm looking at this real quick, because I might have picked Detroit, and it's Detroit and Chicago. It's not Detroit and Minnesota, who I originally thought it was. I'm trying to go back and make sure who I picked, because I have no confidence in the there. I got a sheet in front of me. Yeah, I did pick Chicago this week. I'm sorry. I did pick Detroit. So hopefully he did wait for the rest of the run, because I have no – even though Chicago did come back against Kansas City, which I think wouldn't happen if Jamal Charles wouldn't have got hurt.
Right.
Hopefully it is a wake-up call, because I did pick the Detroit Lions at home against Chicago.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how he reacts. And I think the Lions are definitely the right pick in that game, just because the Bears, I still think, are one of the worst teams in the league, and their quarterback situation isn't much better than a lot of teams out there. So.
Yeah, there's a couple games coming up this week that I was this is like Baltimore and San Francisco. You kind of got to pick your poison on that one. Baltimore beat Steelers, and you think, okay, maybe there's something going on, but then they lose to the Cleveland Browns, and the 49ers, they almost were able to pull one out against the Giants last night, but here we are talking about a Giants. The 49ers team is at the bottom. So, I mean, there's a couple, Houston and Jacksonville, another game that you kind of got to choose your poison with. So, And my upset of the week, I'm going to put this out there now, my upset of the week, because the fact that now we got 2 weeks in a row, or not 2 weeks in a row, but 2 weeks that Peyton Manning has not been able to have a touchdown. I'm actually picking the Cleveland Browns after the win over Baltimore to be at home to beat the Denver Broncos this weekend. So that is my upset pick this week. Hopefully that keeps me in my football pool this week.
Hey, man, I think you got something going there. I think it's if they can get a pass rush on Manning and affect him early, and it should be a question if they can really move the ball against that Bronco defense.
Yes.
We'll see, but I think you're onto something there, and we can talk more about some of the matchups next week tomorrow.
Yep. I want to thank you very, very much for coming on, giving us your time. Like I said before you came on, you have no invested interest other than just come on and talk NFL, and I do greatly appreciate that. I've already shared it on my personal page, but I'm going to between tonight and tomorrow get your guys' fan page on all our sites or all our fan pages, and probably put on the website as well, so people have a way to cool. So people have a way to follow you guys on Facebook and Twitter and as well. Definitely looking forward tomorrow night to continue our conversation and talk about some games coming up. And a lady in my ear just said I have 90 seconds, so gotta get off the air here. All right. Definitely got to thank you, and look forward to talking to you tomorrow, sir.
All righty, man. You have a good night.
You too. That was Patrick Taylor of Line Blower. Make sure you guys check them out. You can go to lineblower.com. Check them out on Facebook, Twitter, line_blower. So make sure you guys check them out as well. Tomorrow we got, and I forgot the name already. Is we got 3 guests lined up tomorrow. We got Patrick Taylor returning at 10 o'clock to talk NFL. We got Izzo at 10:30 to talk NHL. We got Eric Saunders at 9:30 to talk racing. So looking forward to having him on the show. Don't forget, we got Mason Mitchell making a return to the show at 9:30 on Wednesday. We got a full slate for Thursday's show on Racing with Big Sweat. So make sure you guys tune in and enjoy this week because we got a lot of things going on. Make sure you guys check out our site, the110nation.com. Check out our blog site, the110nationsports.com. Check out my fan page, Mr. CJ Sports. Check out the site and sports side of the house, 110 Nation Sports. Our guest and radio side of the house, 110 Nation Sports Radio. I think I got it all on there. I think there's anything else. Nope. I think we got it all. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow night, 9 o'clock. You guys have a good night.
Stop by any of the 30 Raleigh-Durham O'Reilly Auto Parts stores where you'll find everyday low prices on the parts you need to keep your vehicle at its best. Our guaranteed low prices ensure you're always getting our best deal. In fact, we'll match any auto parts store's price on any like item. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.